Last night was one of those games that really makes you question some of the decisions on the court, especially when it comes to rotations and starting lineups. The Los Angeles Lakers opened with Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, Rui Hachimura, LeBron James, and DeAndre Ayton, and the result was, frankly, brutal. From the very first whistle, the defensive effort was practically non-existent. You could feel it in the energy of the arena. This was a lineup that looked like it was begging for trouble from the start. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Rui Hachimura. I love his versatility and his offensive capabilities, but starting him in that unit was just not the right move. He's someone who thrives in certain scenarios, but placing him alongside two other players who aren't particularly known for their athleticism exposes every weakness in the team's defensive structure. It's hard to build a cohesive perimeter defense when your starting three are essentially unable to cover athletic wings or chase loose balls effectively. And that's exactly what happened last night. Every time the opposing team pushed the ball, it felt like the Lakers were scrambling to react, rather than executing a strategy. Now, I want to be clear, this doesn't necessarily mean the coaching staff is making a fatal error. LeBron James was just coming back, and there's always the factor of familiarity. Sometimes the first game back for a player like LeBron is all about getting comfortable, finding rhythm with teammates he's already gelled with, and building chemistry quickly. In this case, it could be that the staff was trying to ease him back into a lineup with players he knows he can read and play alongside effectively. LeBron has history playing with Luka Doncic, with Austin Reeves, and even Rui has shown he can perform well when paired correctly. It might be a case of giving the team a baseline to work from, a foundation to build on during the early part of the season. If that's the reasoning, then it's understandable. You want to avoid overcomplicating things in the very first few games, especially when everyone is fresh and healthy, including players who missed time last season or are just returning from injury. But if that's not the reason, then we have to ask some tough questions. If Hachimura is going to remain a fixture in the starting lineup long-term, it becomes a concern. There's a history there, one that suggests he can struggle with role adjustments. In previous seasons, he's had moments where being benched or coming off the bench affected his attitude and performance. Under Darvin Ham, that pattern was noticeable. Players react differently under different coaches, and it's possible that with the current staff, things will be different. Rui himself has stated he's open to coming off the bench, emphasizing that it's more about minutes and end-of-game opportunities than starting status. But the challenge with that is structural. Typically, starters finish games. If you put someone like Rui in the starting five and he struggles defensively, you're essentially handicapping your team every time he's on the court with those specific lineup combinations. Athleticism matters in today's NBA, especially for teams like the Lakers that already have a deficit in that area. You cannot assemble three of your least athletic players on the court simultaneously without risking catastrophic defensive breakdowns. It's just the reality of modern basketball. When Rui isn't hitting his shots, he becomes a liability in multiple ways. He struggles to secure rebounds at the level the team needs. He can be slow on rotations, and he lacks the perimeter defensive quickness that other starters provide. The problem isn't that Rui doesn't have talent. He absolutely does. But the issue lies in fit and maximizing the team's potential. That's why a sixth-man role might be the perfect scenario for him. You can use him as a focal point offensively, slot him in at the 3 or 4 position depending on matchups, and manage his minutes so that he remains effective without exposing weaknesses in the starting unit. For example, when LeBron is on the court, you could pair him with Rui in a smaller lineup, or when LeBron rests, Rui can come in as the primary option at the 4 spot. The flexibility exists, but it requires careful management and a willingness to adjust traditional roles. The other side of this conversation, however, is the team's approach to roster management. There's a possibility the Lakers are hesitant to bench Rui because of trade considerations. If he remains a starter and performs well, his value remains high. Conversely, moving him to the bench could potentially decrease that value, which might influence management decisions. That's a strategic angle, and it's not necessarily about performance alone. It's about asset management. The tricky part is balancing that with team needs. If Rue is unwilling to fully buy into a bench or a transitional role, then the team has to make a decision. A player cannot hold the franchise hostage with preferences that conflict with the team's broader strategy. And this is where the Lakers, like any professional team, have to put the organization first. It's also about timing and development. Early season games are one thing. They're a chance to experiment and adjust, to see which combinations work best, and to establish a baseline chemistry. But the playoffs are where everything needs to be polished and precise. You don't want to discover in the middle of a playoff series that your starting unit lacks defensive cohesion or that certain rotations don't make sense. That's why the early stretch of games is valuable. It's a controlled environment to test lineups, integrate players, and build relationships on the court. If keeping Rue in the starting lineup temporarily helps LeBron regain comfort and rhythm, then it might be justified. But it's crucial that this isn't a long-term experiment if it compromises the team's effectiveness or readiness for high-stakes games. Another key aspect is evaluating other potential starters. Players like Marcus Smart, Jared Vanderbilt, or Jake LaRavia offer different skill sets that could strengthen the starting five, particularly on defense. It's not always about individual talent. Fit and complementary skills often outweigh raw ability. The ideal starting lineup maximizes both ends of the floor. Smart can bring defensive energy and floor spacing. Vanderbilt can provide toughness and rebounding, and LaRavia can stretch the floor while being versatile on defense. The coaching staff has to carefully consider which combination provides the best balance of offense, defense, and athleticism. And during these early games, they have the luxury to test these scenarios without overreacting to short-term outcomes. Finally, there's the broader strategic consideration. The Lakers have to figure out what the team's identity will be this season. Are they prioritizing shooting, spacing, and offensive efficiency, or do they need to inject athleticism and defensive versatility into the starting five? Sometimes these decisions are influenced by potential trades and the management's long-term vision. If Rue remains a starter purely to preserve trade value, that might be a temporary measure, but it's a delicate balancing act. The front office and coaching staff need to be aligned on both short-term performance and long-term strategy. If it's about familiarity for LeBron, that's understandable. But if it's about preserving an asset for a trade, the team needs to communicate a clear plan so that fans and players alike understand the reasoning behind the decisions. Looking ahead, the real challenge for the Lakers isn't just these early season games. It's about creating a blueprint that will carry them deep into the playoffs. The regular season allows experimentation, but once you hit the postseason, everything is magnified. Every decision about who starts, who closes games, and who plays certain minutes becomes a magnifying glass on the team's weaknesses. That's why figuring out how to utilize Rue Hachimura effectively is such a critical question. In theory, you could rotate him through multiple positions, adjust his minutes, and pair him with different combinations of players. But there's always the underlying risk. If he isn't contributing defensively in your lineup, is overmatched athletically, it becomes a chain reaction that impacts the entire team's performance. Basketball is such a finely tuned ecosystem. When one piece is out of sync, it ripples across everything. At the same time, the Lakers are blessed with flexibility, which is both a gift and a challenge. LeBron James is back, healthy, and playing at his usual high standard. That immediately changes how the team functions because the offense often flows through him and he naturally elevates the players around him. Austin Reeves has proven he can be a reliable sidekick. Luka Doncic brings playmaking that spreads the floor, and DeAndre Ayton offers inside presence. The question becomes how to balance all of that while injecting the necessary defensive energy, floor spacing, and athleticism into the starting lineup. If the Lakers want to compete with teams like Utah or Denver in the postseason, they cannot afford a slow starting defensive unit. Those early lapses, even in November, are signals of what might happen when the stakes are higher. The dilemma surrounding Rue is a perfect example of this balancing act. He is an offensive weapon and a capable floor spacer, but his defensive limitations are exposed when he's matched against more athletic wings. if the coaching staff is keeping him in the starting five temporarily to protect trade value. That's a calculated risk. On the other hand, if it's a matter of building comfort for LeBron, that's a strategic patience move. Either way, the key is adaptability. The Lakers have to be willing to pivot, adjust rotations, and make tough decisions without getting too attached to sentiment or short-term convenience. Marcus Smart, in particular, represents an intriguing alternative. His defensive IQ, perimeter pressure, and toughness make him a natural fit for a starting role that demands athleticism and intensity. Pairing him with Ayton and LeBron could immediately elevate the team's defensive metrics while still allowing for offensive efficiency. Jared Vanderbilt provides another option with versatility, rebounding, and defensive instincts that can cover multiple positions. Jake LaRavia adds spacing and self-creation skills, which can complement the stars without overloading the lineup with players who occupy the same space or role. The coaching staff has a real puzzle to solve. How do you maximize talent without compromising cohesion? The answer lies in experimentation, timing, and understanding each player's optimal impact on both ends of the floor. And let's not forget the psychological aspect. LeBron James is not just a superstar. He is the anchor for chemistry and team morale. Ensuring he feels comfortable early in the season might be the subtle glue that prevents bigger issues down the line. But at the same time, the Lakers cannot allow a single player's comfort to dictate structural decisions that affect the entire roster. Basketball is a team sport first, and alignment between coaching, front office, and players is essential. If Hachimura is unwilling to embrace a bench role or transitional minutes, then the Lakers must make a decision. Either adapt the rotation to preserve his value temporarily or move him to a situation where his skills are maximized without holding back the team. It's a delicate balance, and one that will likely play out over the first month of the season. The other layer to consider is the broader strategy for roster management. The Lakers are always thinking about trades, asset value, and long-term planning. If Rui remains a starter for the sake of a trade, it's a short-term measure designed to protect the team's flexibility. Meanwhile, the coaching staff can still explore how other players fit into the starting five or rotation patterns. This dual approach, managing both performance and asset value, is something elite teams constantly navigate. It's a chess match, with moves that affect both the immediate results and the franchise's positioning for years to come. Fans often see the surface level, who's on the floor, who scores, who defends, but behind the scenes, every minute and every lineup has implications far beyond the box score. Another crucial element is player development. Early season games offer a controlled environment to integrate rookies, new acquisitions, and role players into the system. LaRavia, for instance, could emerge as a key contributor if given the chance alongside LeBron and Ayton. Smart's defensive leadership could set the tone for the team's perimeter play. Vanderbilt's versatility could allow for creative small ball or big lineup adjustments, depending on matchups. The Lakers have a deep bench, but the magic lies in knowing when and where to deploy each piece. These early season experiments, whether it's rotating Hachimura or trying Smart at the starting wing, are invaluable for gathering data and building trust among players. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, the basketball world is buzzing with whispers that could shake the very foundation of the NBA. Sources close to the story suggest that Kevin Durant, one of the league's most lethal scorers, has given a tentative green light to a move that would send shockwaves through Los Angeles, a potential signing with the Lakers. While nothing has been officially announced, insiders hint that Durant's camp has already opened lines of communication with the Lakers front office, fueling speculation and stirring endless debate among fans and analysts alike. Imagine the possibilities. Durant joining forces with a star-studded Lakers roster, creating one of the most formidable offensive threats in recent memory. Social media is already ablaze, with fans dissecting hypothetical lineups, offensive schemes, and playoff scenarios. Commentators can hardly contain themselves, debating the implications not just for the Lakers, but for the league as a whole. Would this move cement Los Angeles as an unstoppable powerhouse, or could it disrupt the chemistry that has been carefully cultivated over seasons? The intrigue is undeniable. Adding to the mystery, sources close to Durant hint that while he is intrigued by the Lakers' vision, he is weighing all options carefully. The move is far from finalized, and rival teams are surely watching closely, hoping to sway the superstar's decision. The rumor has sparked a frenzy of speculation over who else might be on board, how the supporting cast might shift, and what this means for ticket sales, merchandise, and the broader NBA landscape. One thing is certain. The very mention of Durant and the Lakers in the same breath is enough to ignite imaginations and dominate conversation. Analysts are debating the timing, the potential contracts, and even the cultural fit, while fans everywhere are fantasizing about buzzer beaters, highlight reel dunks, and championship possibilities. If Durant does indeed say yes, the ripple effect would extend far beyond Los Angeles, reshaping rivalries and forcing contenders to rethink their strategies. For now, the rumor is tantalizingly alive, a story that has already become impossible to ignore. The Lakers universe, and the NBA at large, waits with bated breath. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.